Okay, this is the Bailor cylinder. Now we're going to do the sealing on the head part. Okay, I want to show you here. So I just want to look at this. You can see all this, where it beat this up from things getting inside of the cylinder and hammering up against here. Whatever that is, there's little parts that have smashed this all up. Okay, they won't affect anything. I just want to show you that. Like sometimes I've seen set screws come loose and they just float in there and it bangs up against that. But that's not going to matter in this case. So we got the new wear bands. Okay, we're going to drop these in. There's two of them here. They stack on each other. Snap those in. You know, you might as well, some people don't change them, but it's just good. It keeps it tight and fresh. Okay, you got so we had the problem, this O-ring and backup. Now I'm using a 90 durometer O-ring on this, which is, they call them a durometer. There's a 70, which is standard, and then there's a 90, which is a little bit harder. And the reason I switched that, because I kept seeing these O-rings beat up and chipped up. So we put a little heavier one in there, and then we got the backup. So we'll slip the backup on. Okay, and I want to show you something about the backups. A lot of times I'll go one size down on the backups because when you stretch them over, then sometimes they stick out a little bit, and then it causes a problem. That's just a little tip. Okay, so you got that in there. Okay, and you know, there's a certain way the backups go. Let me show you that real quick. Okay, there's different kinds of backups. So I'm going to draw this a little bigger. So this backup's just a flat backup. Okay, then what you do is you have the O-ring behind it, like this. Okay, instead of being across metal, this kind of just gives it a little, that's what I call a backup. So the pressure comes up here, and the head, it pushes this, and that's where the seal does, and it puts pressure, and this O-ring kind of compresses in there, and it gets backed up against this backup. Now there's another backup, that's a standard backup. A little higher quality one has like a cup on it, kind of. I like using those, but you know, it's not mandatory, but it kind of gives lets the seal kind of cups it, basically. So that's a step up. You can get that kind. Like I said, this is the one I'm putting is a 90 durometer. Okay, that's the hardness. Standard is 70, but I've changed it. Okay, so let's go on. Let's keep going here. You got your wiper here. That just pops into the cap. You usually do that by hand. You might have to manipulate it a little bit. Use a screwdriver to get it in. Okay. Get it seated in there. And that's all that is. Set that aside. Now this is the head. We have this one, and this is a 90 durometer O-ring too, and just a flat backup. Now you got to be careful. This one really thin. You stretch it. That's why I go down one size on it, because you don't want this. I'll show you why in a minute. Sometimes you got to get it in there with your pick. Get it and see it's. Let me come over there and show you. There's a reason why I go down on this one size. But you can see what happens is, see how it's a little bit tight, but it won't sit in there. So you need to get the O-ring and set it. But see, when I let go, it's going right because it's a little bit smaller. But I want it that way because of the way they stretch and had problems. When you go to put it in here, it'll cut. So we're going to put this O-ring on here. We're going to try to start it, and then we're going to run the pick around to get it to seat in there right. You got to really watch this because this will cause you to have to take the cylinder apart again. But we're going to put the O-ring down and make it push in there tight. I want that O-ring to keep that thing flattened up in there. Just work it around till you get it. Okay, there it is. Okay, now what happens is before I've already sanded this one out and beveled it a little bit. This is real tight. You go put this in there and it's real tight. You got to be careful. I've had it before where I actually cut one going in there. And you don't want to do that because that's your leak spot. So we'll heavily lubricate this. I want to talk about the shaft seal. I'm going to come over there and show you something. This is what's in the kit. Okay. It's a non-loaded seal. It does have an extra lip in here. Okay. And we saw the other one was all extruded up in here. And it doesn't have a pressure pack in there. Now, I brought this one out as an example of an upgraded seal. Obviously, it's a lot smaller. Okay, but what it has in here, this little hardened Teflon ring that sits on the top where all that extrusion happens from the pressure, and it's also loaded back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade this seal to one like this. And yes, they are a little bit more, but it just gives a little extra advantage. This seal is kind of the low end. There's no stiffener in there to keep it tight, and they fail. And you know, you saw the one was all heated up. We're going to go ahead and use this in here, but the next time I get the kit going, I'm going to change it to one of these type of seals, which is a little bit better, because I see that what's happening. I get a lot of these cylinders in, and I see that, you know, there's a problem there. There's high heat and the extrusion, so I want to try to counter that and make the correction. So that gives the customer a little more time on here. But again, they're running these hard. Now this seal you could end up doing by hand. We don't need a seal install tool. Pop it in there and you can see. Come around and show you how it looks. Okay. Kind of see it in there. The pressure comes up this way. It's in there. Okay, so now we'll lube this up really good, and we'll pay attention when we're installing it. Okay, I like using this tacky red grease. Go through a lot of this, but we're gonna really lube this seal here and pop it in there and make sure, you know, that we don't cut it. Now I've already had that happen, and you didn't see, but this has been here before, and I put it on the lathe and I kind of rolled this top edge. This is a tight fit. Okay, so you're gonna just kind of work it around. You don't want to, you could press it in, but so it's tight in there. You can see it's going to hit that O-ring. We don't want to cut that. Okay. Okay, and just, you start it out. That's why I go down one size on the backup, because if the backup stretch, it'll hang up, and then you won't see it. It'll be kind of rolled in there. We're going to just take a look. Use your inspection light here. Okay, these inspection lights, this is the best one. It has a special little lens on it, which is, you can kind of see how it does that. Anyways, we'll have these on in our store, but just want to make sure you don't cut any of that back. Look, pay attention. You don't want this coming back on you. So that's just a little tip there, and you're just going to work this down. You could press this, but I already know this one's going in good, just from experience. Okay, and then it sits down a little bit, and then you have a little edge here that'll keep it seated down. Okay, so then we'll get this on here. We'll get it on the cylinder, but that basically, this goes on here, and that locks it down, and then we'll get this together and test it. Okay, so stand by on that. Main thing is I want to tell you about the durometer, why I use the little stronger one. This cylinder takes a beating. It works hard. It's hot. The system's overheated, and it's just all day long. These cylinders, bang, 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 bang. So, you know, they don't last forever. They will leak, and I've done a lot of these. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've done these. Okay, for two different operations, they both have these, and there's two cylinders on each one, and these guys usually have at least one backup, and they're about $10,000 each. So this is a backup. They got the two on there. I'll get this one done, tested, and then they'll stick this on the shelf, and then their mechanics can just change them out. Okay, and it's just, you know, having me do it is better than them trying to do it. They don't have the facilities, and plus, you know, they know basically that I test them and they don't have to question it. And we have a pretty good percentage-wise of, you know, things being done right. So that's just a little explanation on that. Stand by for the next one.